Hey, good evening, Joey. Thank you for taking the time this evening on this episode. If you could please tell the audience a little bit about you.
Absolutely, Anthony. It's great to be here with you. And I come from a low income blue collar family outside of Detroit, Michigan. And I grew up watching struggle, watching limitations, watching my mom and dad both, work themselves into unhealthy living conditions and stuff, trying to get the hours for finances and stuff like that. And I remember at 9 years old thinking, something's not right here. But then I went into my adulthood, my young adulthood, 18, 20, carrying those same patterns, that same conditioning out in my life. And, I got a job into corporate America and I started building that career because it's what I was supposed to do. But all the time in my heart, I wanted to, from the time I was 22 years old, this thing lit inside of me to inspire, motivate people to live better lives. And I became a student of it at 22. And it took me almost 28 years to actually step out and understand all the workings of it. And I was a continuous student that whole time. But in that same time, I built a 28-year career up to a vice president of sales in corporate America, where I assisted companies that were either going into or in bankruptcy to come out that other side in profitability. I have a 25-year-old son who I just adore. And, today I live my life in a way that I don't need a vacation from it. And I used to want that. And I used to want to help other people do that, but I had no idea how the heck to do it for many years.
Awesome. So I got a question. What was your pivotal moment in your childhood or maybe your young adulthood that made you want to change? Like, was there a moment or something that had happened in your life where like, okay, I need to change this?
There was, even from the time I was young, I knew, like I said, I knew that stuff wasn't right. I even in high school and stuff like that, I wanted to help people do better than they were doing and stuff like that. And I guess there was something innate within me that I always knew by helping other people, it would help me do that as well. So I had that way of being, but at 22 years old, I heard a speaker, his name was Jack Boland. And Anthony, I don't remember what he said, but I remember it lighting this ignition within inside of me that I really wanted to spend my life inspiring and motivating people to live better lives. I didn't even know what it meant. There wasn't coaching and things like that out back then and stuff. So I had no idea what it really was. And it's kind of unfolded over time. As I stepped into it for a while, I thought it was a minister and a police officer and things like that. And it's kind of led me down the pathway to what I'm doing today. And today I work with people professionally and personally to help them create a life that they truly love living, to get out of living in struggle, get out of living in lack, get out of living in limitation, and really open up the doorways of possibilities and potentials.
And so what did you take from your corporate career? Were there any things that you learned from your corporate career that you took into what you do now, or you threw it all away?
Oh. I learned something I went through a divorce and I learned a lot in going through a divorce after a 19-year marriage. Yeah, I've learned in everything that's happened to me. I actually wrote a book called Life's Lessons, and it's all about how life happens for us and to us. And throughout this whole process of all this, I learned how to take the judgment out of the things happening. And instead of looking at something as good or bad, as me being the victim of it or the cause of it or things like that, is take the judgment out of it. And start asking questions like, if life happens for me and not to me, why is this happening? And all of a sudden I could start learning. Yeah, if you think about it, in corporate America, you have 350 families because you have 350 employees there. And when you announce that you're going to be filing for bankruptcy as a business, the impact on every one of those people and the similarities, but also the unique ways in it. And that's really has served me so well in dealing with people like that and helping them. There's a lot of talk about overcoming your fears. If you have fear, you don't have faith. If you have faith, you don't have fear. And they almost like it's a switch that you turn on and off, but it's not. It's a process that you go through. And so helping people really go through that process has helped me to help hundreds of people to do that. And, I work with a lot of clients who have 1 foot in the employee bucket and 1 foot in the entrepreneur bucket. And to take that step out of that employee bucket is so scary and fearful. And I did it myself after a 28-year career, when I resigned, I didn't retire. And taking that step and what all's entailed in those fears, helping people that are going into retirement and fearful of if their life is over and things like that. And so, yeah, every one of the things I learned in there, I just talked to somebody a couple of weeks ago, excuse me, and we talked about negotiations, and negotiations doesn't happen at the sales table, but negotiations is across the board. When we're truly look at our life and through negotiations and we look for a win-win, we look for how are not we going to win or how are not they going to win or who's going to take more or less. But there's always those mutual win-wins and everything. And when we start looking for those is when we start living different. And Anthony, that begins with doing that within ourselves. You and I were talking ahead of time a little bit about mindset, the words that we speak, the way we talk to ourselves. One of the things I ask people at workshops when I do them live is, would you ever speak to another person the way you talk to yourself? Or would you ever let another person talk to you the way you talk to yourself? It's so damaging, but we do it without even thinking, oh my God, I'm so dumb. I can't believe how clumsy I am. All those things. And then the other side of it with that is the words, the thoughts that we entertain. If we're tied into our past failures, to our past upsets, to what we haven't been able to do, and we keep replaying those, we're going to live with those being our best results. So yeah, in corporate America, in coaching clients, and everything I do, I continue to learn and grow from.
You mentioned earlier about people having one foot in the entrepreneur bucket and then one foot in the employee bucket. And I know that you've talked about employee and entrepreneur myth busting, right? Do you think, can you explain to what that is, what the employee to entrepreneur myth busting is, and maybe that is what's holding people back from keeping one foot in their employee bucket?
Yeah, absolutely. Beginning of this year, I took and I did entrepreneur myth busting. And I think I took 5 or 7 of the top, I don't remember each one of them, but the major ones I do. I took the top 5 or 7 myths that people tell entrepreneurs. One of them was like, before you do something like that, make sure you go talk to your friends and your family and, things like that and get their input. But our friends and our family are the same people who gave us the conditioning that's limiting our life right now. So why would we listen to people who are not doing that? Instead, go to people who are doing that, who've achieved that level. And maybe it's not the same thing you want to do, but have achieved success in whatever that is for them. That's somebody you can get support from who can help you overcome the speed bumps and the walls you bump into and things like that. Going to the people who gave us our conditioning are just going to pull us right back to our conditioning. That was one of the major ones that I listed for that. The other one is there's so much talk nowadays about if you want something, you have to take massive actions into it. And let me ask you something, Anthony, for you personally. How many massive achievements have you received based on massive actions versus how many massive achievements have you achieved versus on taking inspired action?
Definitely, inspired action over a small, or small actions over a long period of time. Maybe there was a couple times where I had a fork in the road where I had to make a massive decision, but it was all definitely little decisions that ended up into the big goal.
And that's exactly what happens, because what happens is so many people are taught you have to take massive actions, right? And that's why so many people try harder and harder and harder, and they put in more and more and more effort, kind of like a fly on a window pane. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes until it kills itself on the windowsill of exhaustion. And that's what so many people do with their desires, is they try harder and harder and harder. They put more and more and more hours. They put more and more and more effort, and they just keep going with it until they get burned out and exhausted. When we slow down and spend some time being a human being versus a human doing, all of a sudden, these inspired actions, these thoughts, we overhear a conversation in a store or a restaurant from somebody, and it gives us an action. We hear something on the radio or TV. It gives us an action we can take. They're inspired actions, and they happen all the time, Anthony. But what happens is we're going so fast and people are so busy, they just blow right by them and don't even recognize them. When we slow down, when we get into that point of understanding, they show up for us. We don't even have to go out and get them. Life becomes different. We start achieving. That's why some people, you see that go harder and harder and harder, and they put in miles of effort and they get minimal results at best. And then you see these other people, it seems like they take one little action, they get these huge results out of it. They're just going down easy street, like just flowing through life. That's what it is. That's the difference right there.
That's funny you say that because I look at how some people's success, and you could even look at people on YouTube, right? Like, oh man, they did 30 episodes and now they have hundreds of thousands of followers. And then some people have to do 2,000 videos before they can even get to that. And so, obviously you don't want to compare yourself too often to people, but there is a page to take out of some people's book where they're being more efficient in the less things that they're doing per se, or that you see them doing. Advice, you're like being busy just to be busy versus being effective.
Beautifully said, Anthony. When I worked in corporate America, I would develop territories when we were going in bankruptcy, looking for ownership, the banking stuff, all that, the dealing with the customers. And, I think the only person in history of a major US corporation to come in and write us out a check for $1 million so that we would continue producing their parts. Like, nobody thought it was possible. That's another myth, is we're taught what's possible. I'm working with a client now, and I've been working with him for a few months now. And when he came to me, he had two jobs. He was two full-time jobs he was working, and he had his business. His business is where his passion really was, but he was stealing time to try and put into his business. And the two full-time jobs were taking 100% of his work life. Right? Within a short period of time, and it took him a little while to get this, because he thought, I can't back off of those because I need the money and I need this and I need that. But we started bringing in balance. Within 3 months, his business toppled over. We balanced it out to 50-50, 50% of his work time in his business, 50% between the other two jobs. And within the time we did that, his business toppled over income compared to both of the other ones combined. When we slow down, when we start working more effectively, like you said, all of a sudden we start getting more results for our effort. But it's hard to get somebody who's in that go, go, go mode to understand that, because their mind and everything inside of them tells them, I got to keep going or I'm going to lose. I got to keep going. I got to keep going.
Do you get them to change their mindset by focusing more on maybe their unique talents or skills that they bring to a particular niche?
Yeah, really good question. So here's one of the things I tell every client I work with. I don't know your answers. I'm not the whiz. I don't know your answers. What I'm really good at is helping you get in contact with them, helping you find those answers within you. So whether it's your unique talents and gifts, whether it's your desires and what that awesome life looks like for you, what you're going to do for your life works and your purpose in this world and things like that. I don't know what that is, but I do a really good job helping people access that. So as we access that, I have different programs, but my main mothership program is called the Life Ignited program. And it's all based on the processes that I built called SMT, Subconscious Mindset Training. Okay. Now, you and I, a few minutes ago, we talked about the mindset, the words we use, the thoughts we entertain. That's one side of things. But for a decade and a half, I worked on that with things like The Secret and all that other stuff out there. And I tried thinking positive, talking positive, acting positive. And it led to me throwing all of it in the trash going, man, this stuff's a bunch of crap. Later on, once I realized that it's at the subconscious level, that it's our conditioning, it's our paradigms, our habits of belief, things like that, that are ruling what we experience in life. When we get to that level, all of a sudden, the mindset of the words we use and the thoughts we entertain make a huge, huge impact right away. So what I do is I help people start out by what I call dynamic vision road mapping, where we create a dynamic vision for what that is in their life in all aspects and areas of their life. And I have 12-step framework that we go throughout the process of that. And it deals in multiple pillars and stages and such. But as we go through that, it's all on the subconscious mindset. The whole program is designed to bump us into those conditioning within us. Like for me, part of the conditioning I had was that a man gets a job, supports a family, and hopefully lives long enough to enjoy some retirement. And I bought into that hook, line, sinker up that corporate ladder. And I knew my desire was to do something different, but I could never break myself away from that. I was kind of trapped in that no matter what. Until I finally gave up on everything and stuff and had a bunch of you know, my a divorce followed by my dad passing, followed by my mom passing, and all this stuff happened. And I just got to a point of going, man, why? Like I can lose all of this stuff so quickly. Within a couple of years, it all happened, Anthony. Why am I so stuck in hanging on to the one freaking thing I want to get rid of, the job? And that led me to picking up a book, and it led to the next of it. And that's what led me really to the subconscious mindset side of things, to the that subconscious, that conditioning and all that. When I started understanding what that was, and I'll tell you, man, when I hit that, oh my God, it was that conditioning that man gets a job and supports a family, you know, and all that. That's what's had me held up this whole time. Once I understood that, within months, it seemed like weeks, all of a sudden, my whole entire world was changing. No lie. Within 8 months of realizing that, I went and found a coach because I knew I would run into my own conditioning and patterns and stuff if left on my own. So I went and found a coach who specialized. I started working with this person. Within 8 months, I had my first of multiple coaching certification. I had my first 3 clients. I resigned from corporate America, moved down here to the mountains in South Carolina, and I've been rolling forward ever since, just absolutely loving life and just having such a huge impact on people's lives.
I like the fact that you talked about the subconscious mindset part, or the subconscious conditioning, because
yes.
Naturally our parents, because of maybe what the things they went through, they will put that down on their kids, you know. Hey, you make sure you go, either it's the military or, you know, you go to college, and that's the only way you can be successful.
Yes.
You know, being so particular ideas or dreams. And then when we get in the real world, we're like, there seems to be no rules. There are no rules to how this thing works. There's plenty of different ways to be successful. And we find ourselves scratching our head as to why, you know, this person and this person is, you know, doing whatever they want. Like, how did they do that? And it just seems to be like this secret, right?
Yeah.
That you can't understand because you're in this box, you know, being in the corporate ladder or whatever job or occupation that you do, that you did it. Like I told you earlier, right? Me joining the Navy out of necessity, right? Some people do things out of necessity and they find themselves not having a no way out. In the military, we call that golden handcuffs. Because in the military, we always have the retirement. The retirement is definitely appealing because you only got to do 20 years by 30, like other civil service jobs. But then also, you know, there's always that new rank that gets dangled in your face. Hey, you know, you keep working hard, you get this new rank, and you know, stay in. And in order to get paid for that rank, you got to do another 3 years before you retire. They call it high 3. So even in the military, we had, like I said, we had our golden handcuffs. And I spoke to you earlier about, hey, look, you know, the way I want things to work out is for me to be able to separate in 3 years and walk away. And my piece, if I have to stay in, because, you know, there's obviously it's not bad to stay in the Navy, military and then get your retirement, but the subconscious mindset, right? We are in the military, we are naturally institutionalized. And so we like the idea, I have my food is taken care of. They give me money for food. They give me money for housing, medical, right? And so that's a lot to walk away from when you have a service that takes care of everything for you, to just say, all right, I'm done, and to step out and do something, especially if you have a family. But it does start with the SMT technique, or subconscious mindset.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, going back to what you said there, when the way you joined the Navy and stuff like that, you know, so many people live their life pushed by pain, right? You know, I was so miserable in my life that I used food and gambling and then alcohol at some time, to the point I had to reach out and get help for it and stuff, you know, and I pushed by pain into growing that way. And what I specialize in is helping people create a vision so they can be pulled by their vision versus being pushed by their pain. So many people live a life, and just like you said, they get that hook, those golden handcuffs, you know. In corporate America, I was making 6 figures. I had a company car. I had, you know, all the bonus and benefits and all of that stuff that went along with it and stuff, you know. And not only did I have all those things that I was like, man, walking away from this, that's a lot to walk away from, you know. But I had everybody around me going, oh my God, you've got it made. Like, you hit it. You know. And inside, I'm feeling empty, and I feel like I'm just drowning within myself. Like, no, I'm not living the life that I'm supposed to be living, you know. But so many people get caught in that, and they get really, what happens, Anthony, is people have their desires up here, right? They have this huge desires of things they want to be, do, have, create, and experience in their life. But what happens is they get a piece of that, and then their conditioning. And I just want to say this, our conditioning is not our fault. We didn't sign up to it when we were born. And it's not the people's fault who gave it to us, because they were doing the best they could do for us. So we can let everybody off the hook, not have to have a villain in that. And then we can just kind of move forward, understanding we got the best, we got what we were supposed to have in order to grow us to where we're supposed to go and stuff. As we go through that process of that, as we go through that self-discovery and opening that up, one of the things you would ask me about at one point is like, why am I passionate about what I do? And I'll tell you right now, Anthony, it's because I know every time somebody goes within and they touch into those unique gifts, those unique talents that only they have, and they bring those outwardly, the entire world shifts because of it.
I love that. I like that.
That's my process. Why.
That
yeah, no, it is. And I got examples of that too. I was working with a guy, he was a CEO of a company, and he said, I don't want to get, my team needs coaching, but I don't want to bring somebody in to coach them. I want to learn what you do, and then I'll take it to my team. And I go, okay, that's no problem. Within the first week, I realized this gentleman had a 37-year marriage that he and his wife just coexisted. Like they shared the same house. They didn't eat together, shop together. They even did their own laundry, all of that stuff, right? The fifth week I was working with him, he was at a live workshop I was at. He happened to show up to it. And so he came up and did a testimonial, and so we were talking, and he told me about what it was like. He told me why, everybody, he hired me for business coaching, and then that this opened up. And the fifth week into it, he said him and his wife were like newlyweds again. They're watching TV together, eating together, dating, all this stuff and everything else. And I said to him, so what, okay, we know what you did. You've been working with me, but what has your wife done differently? And he goes, she didn't do nothing. and everybody laughed. But it proves what you and I were just talking about. She didn't do anything, but his world, when we change, our world around us has to shift as well. So relationships get mended or get better. Our finances get better. The limitations we're experiencing start dropping off, and instead we start experiencing bigger pieces of that, what we call life. When we shift, when somebody shifts, the world of them shifts as well. I see it with every client I work with.
I had a mentor that said, talked about influencing your sphere of influence. So like in this situation, his wife was his influence. He changed, and then she, came to. And so that's pretty awesome. Even in marriage, that this can be applied to as well, especially people who've been married as long as 37 years. Pretty cemented individuals in their thought process and how they do things. And so it's awesome that can even change, people that far in whatever the routines that they had. It was probably going on for decades.
Yeah. And I tell everybody I work with, I don't just coach business. I'm not a business coach. It's impossible to have a business coach unless you're going to go after somebody who does, massive to-dos and massive actions and things like that, call you up, hold you accountable and things like that. But that's not really coaching. That's kind of turning into a to-do robot is what I call that. But to truly coach somebody, to truly help somebody elevate their life and get to where they want to get to, it has to cover all areas of their life. It's got to cover their health and their well-being. Because if you got $1 billion and you're hooked to machines to stay alive, it's not really doing you much good. Your relationships, if you don't have solid relationships to share that with and join in and things like that, and then your vocation, and then even your time and your money freedom, to have that balance in your life. So it covers all.
Right. No, you're right. And kind of what I was talking about earlier, like the whole concept of rich state of mind, right, is to hit all those important portions of your life in order for there to be stability and things to be equally balanced. That was actually the best analogy I heard, where you said having billions, but then you're hooked up to a life support machine. And you're right. Yeah. I can't be focused on my business, and then I am eating McDonald's and, lowering my health, or in some other way, not taking care of myself, or I lose my family. And that's the things that happen in the military. Actually, some of us, we focus so much on, being operational, going on deployments, and we miss months or collectively years of time with our spouses or children, and we don't know them actually, or we have to re-engage when we come back. And so I've seen a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of senior people that they're 25, 30 years in, and they say, I put the military first too many times before my family. And, don't make that same mistake. Find some stability. Awesome. You can be successful. Well, is there a chance that you will not be as successful as the individual that puts the military first or that job first all the time? Because you won't be able to keep up with them.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, but at least you have your health, you have your family, because they will be there until you die, not necessarily this job that you may be killing yourself for.
Yeah, and it all, it's so cool the way all of it ties in and stuff, even in the conversation we've had up until now. So if you're a human doing, that means you go, 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 right? Not only are you sacrificing these other areas, these other people in your lives and things like that and stuff, but you're actually working harder to get less. You know, now I'll say this. There's times, you know, I was doing filming last week, and I was in the studio here for like many hours. I don't even remember how, you know. I even skipped my fun Monday last week because usually Monday is my day for fishing and bike riding and stuff like that and everything. And I skipped it because I was filming. I do those things. But I'll tell you what, and when I was in corporate America, if I had to work late one evening, it felt like grueling, like, oh my God. Now I'm doing it and I'm freaking charged up, drinking coffee, excited as can be, you know. But having those time periods like that, we all go through those, but it's not supposed to be all the time, 7-day a week job. I was working with a realtor who she had been in business for quite a while, and her business was going downward. This is a couple of years ago. Her business was heading downward, and she was so busy working 24/7. She couldn't even keep up, let alone turn everything around again, right? So we started working together. We worked together. I think it was like 5 months into it. And she called me up and she was crying. And I thought something was wrong, Anthony. I go, what's the matter? And she goes, Joseph, I don't even know the words to tell you. I am just so grateful. This has been my highest revenue year in 18 years of my business. It's the only year I've taken 5 weeks vacation, you know, off of work. One of them, 3-week vacation to Israel, one of her bucket list items. Nice. That's what your message is. That's that balance, that all around life balance right there. She was in better health because she was exercising, working out. She had better relationships with her husband, her kids, and her friends because she was spending time with them. She was getting that balance. You know, one of the things I work with business people is having greater balance in all areas of your life. When we do that, is when we can become human beings and we can start noticing. You know, that gentleman I told you about that had the 2 full-time jobs and then his company, you know, I always say that, you know, for me, I refer to God as blue. And it's not because blue is my favorite color, although it is, but in every conversation I have where miraculous things are happening in people's lives, I'll go, how did that happen? How did that happen? You know, and at some point it always comes up. They go, I don't know. It came out of the blue. And so that's why I refer to God as blue. And now this gentleman will continue to send me text message and call me and stuff and go, I got another business out of the blue. You know, and like things show up like that when we allow them. Yeah. But so the 2 things, the benefit in what I do is, one, I've been through that. I've been through that side of living a human doing with the massive to-dos and short-term, long-term goals, all that corporate America, doing what it was out of alignment for what my desires were, but doing it anyways because I thought I had to, and then breaking from that. And then I've been able to help hundreds of people move into what their vision is for their life. I had a teacher who was totally burned out. She had this, as we started working together, she came up with this vision to buy these short buses and a short bus and convert it to a hair salon. And she was going to industrial parks. People would walk outside, get their hair cut, and walk back into work.
I like that.
And she's loving her life. Yeah, I had another one who was a professor at a university out west, and came up with their vision was that she wanted to travel the United States and stay at and go and with detail visit every national park. She's been doing it for 2.5 years. She started a blog and she's monetized it, and she is just absolutely loving her life. She's got her Jeep and she stays in the tent most of the time unless she gets a hotel. And just love it. And so people have done incredible things. I help people start businesses, you know, of all different natures and stuff. And it's inside of us, but it's not up to us to do it alone. And that's a big difference right there, Anthony. So many people try to go it alone, but we're the same people that carry our conditioning and our patterns and our paradigms that we don't even know we're running through and operating through. That's the benefit of having somebody like me.
And when you say somebody that, when they say they're trying to do it alone, are you teaching them how to delegate, and outsource certain things for their business or for their lives?
I teach them what, because there's the whole thing about living in our genius, and I'm a very big advocate and understand that stuff. And yeah, something that we can have somebody else do. I have 4 people on my team right now. And every person on my team, I can't say I can do everything they can do, but I can do it to maybe half measures of what they can do, but I know how. But it wouldn't be good for me to spend my time there because they're like freaking rock stars in what they do. So every person loves what they do. And that's how I build my team. And I've had people on my team who have had that and then lost it. And I let them go find the next thing for them because my team is going to be filled. I call it the dream makers. My team is filled with people who are living their vision, living their greatest life, doing what they do. So my creative person, I just give some ideas, some sparks, and let them go. And they come back with stuff, and it's just fascinating. I have somebody who handles, setting my media and things like that and stuff, and just like a rock star with it. And so it's, yeah. And so what I do is help people instead of delegating type of a thing, because I don't delegate. I don't even think of myself as the boss. I think we're all bosses. We're all on equal level there, and just everybody's creating in their way.
Okay.
And so as we do that, and it works so much better than I ever saw it work in corporate America. And I know in the military too, you can't, be at the same, what I mean? But when we're operating within my team, we're level playing field.
When it comes to how, so you talk about teacher, you talk about marriage, you talk about somebody being in corporate America. How do you know how to approach people coming from all walks of life and to get them to pretty much be the best version of themselves?
I use 2 reference points, Anthony. That is such a great question. I use 2 reference points. Where are you exactly right here and right now? Not where you should be, where you could be, where you want to be, where you could have been. Where are you right here and right now? In other words, when I ask that, it's what's going on, where you're struggling, what's going on good, how long you've been struggling, what's the struggle feel. That helps me get in tune with somebody, and which ultimately anything I get in tune with helps me to get them in tune with. And then where do you want to be? And through my dynamic vision road mapping and other tools like that, I'm able to help people formulate that. Once I have those 2 reference points for anybody, I'm able to help them move along there. And I'm so confident in the results that I achieve and the people I help that I guarantee people get those major results in their life. If not, I'll give them money back. When I'm looking at somebody up front, I always start it with a conversation. And if they're really clear on where they are, if they understand where they want to be, and they can understand the value of time, money, whatever it is, relationships, what that value is of what they're losing right now, I can help them get there.
And do you put a time frame on it? Like, hey, at this 6 months, this is when, 6 months later, this is where you should be, or it's case by case depending on the individual?
It's really case by case. What I guarantee people is if you work with me, if you do the things I do in the programs and things like that and everything, I guarantee you're gonna, I've never ever had anybody come back and go, I'm kind of disappointed in my results. That I guarantee people are blown away by the results on the amount of transition or transformation they make into what they desire.
What's the, and what you do, right? What do you get the biggest enjoyment out of when you see them succeed?
I'll tell you, when somebody has a breakthrough, whether it's an achievement of some type of something they've been going after, whether it's a breakthrough of their mindset and they have that aha moment, whatever it is, Anthony, it'll put me in, like if we started talking about them individually, it would put me in tears. Like I am just so blessed that I get to be this way in people's lives and such, and help and watch people like really growing. Like I know blossom sounds funny, but like really blossom into being the person. Like there's people I work with in their 40s, 50s, 60s that have like for decades wanted to achieve something and they keep blocking themselves and they don't achieve it. And when you see somebody get that spark, it's like, oh my God, this is why I'm living this life. This is why.
It's pretty liberating because I truly think, as long as you are able body and mind, generally speaking, you should be able to accomplish almost anything that you put your mind to. but that's the thing, right? Put your mind to, and when you say you want to do something, let's say you want to write a book, you put your pencil down, you start writing, and you get a little bit of writer's block, and then you start telling yourself, I can't do this. This is, I'm always get stuck here. This is, or like you said earlier, right? You talk to yourself how you wouldn't talk to other people. Stupid Anthony, what? Why can't you get through this writer's block? It's just I find it very interesting how the biggest achievements in life really were from the mind. Some of the biggest achievements in life was from the mind. Even something like sports, where yes, you are athletically doing things, but you ever seen an athlete can't perform because they lost confidence?
Oh, absolutely. I've worked with not pros, but just underneath pro with juniors. I was really big in hockey, being from Michigan, coached hockey, everything else and stuff like that, So I've worked with players and teams in hockey mainly. And yeah, helped with that mindset. You can take somebody that's not as talented as somebody else, but you get their confidence rolling and they'll Michael Jordan over anybody, I mean, not on the ice, but you know what I'm saying? But they will. It's like, holy crap, man, how did that guy even achieve that? How do you do that? There was a high jumper I talk about in my workshops. He was 5'4", and his whole goal was to break 6'2", I think it was, that he was going to jump over 6'2". Now he's 5'4". His coach, nobody thought he could do it. And he'd never done it. And he had practiced and practiced and practiced for his competition. He went through mindset, that mindset and everything else. And he tried it twice and he knocked the bar off both times. The third time he walked up to it, and this is honestly got truth too. He walked up to it and he talked to it. And then he went over and he talked to his coach. He said, tell me I can do this. Tell me I can do this. And he had this talk that he initiated with his coach. No lie, Anthony. He went back. He covered over that thing. He didn't, without kicking it off and stuff, and ended up winning the competition and everything. Nobody thought that he could do that. When we get that in our mindset, but you brought up a beautiful point a couple minutes ago, because you talked about somebody writing a book, getting writer's block. We run into a block like that. We run into a hiccup like that. And all of a sudden, we start questioning our capabilities. We start questioning our confidence. We start knocking ourselves down. Our thinking isn't into alignment anymore with what we want. So everything I do, one of the ways I'm able to explain this is I help people set an intention for what they want in their life. Make sense? Mm-hmm. That's a dynamic vision. They set an intention for what they want. And then my program, the coaching, the group stuff, all of it combined is to help them see where they're taking their attention and going away from the intention. We do that through our conditioning, like it was beautiful. You brought that up right then. We start doing it in the way we talk, in our thoughts, in our self-sabotage, and all of that stuff. We're moving our attention away. And that has to happen in order for us to understand that, so that we can change that conditioning and bring it back into alignment. And that's why I'm able to guarantee results like I am, because I can help people start shifting this really quickly. And the program is set up to identify that. So now all of a sudden, if instead of your attention going over here off the map, you give up on it, and then years later you come back and try it again and give up and all that, all of a sudden you start noticing it veering, and you make corrections and you bring it back in alignment, and you notice it veering, and all of a sudden, and as you're doing that, you're gaining more ground quicker into that, whatever that achievement is. That's the bottom line of how it works.
And it sounds like once you gain momentum, it becomes easier and easier.
Like I work out, I'm not huge, but for my age, I'm doing pretty good. And I love working biceps. I love working chest, shoulders, back. Legs are not my favorite, but I work them every week. But I work out the muscle, and I notice the differences in the muscle, right? Our subconscious is the same way. When we work those muscles of that attention and bringing it into alignment with our intention, when we work that muscle, that's why over time, instead of it going way off and coming in way up, it's just tweaking it, because we've learned to use that muscle. We've learned to build that muscle and bring it into alignment. Ultimately, we have a conscious mind, right? Our conscious mind is whatever we're focused on, whatever the words we use, the thoughts we entertain, all of that and everything else. That's our conscious mind. The subconscious just absorbs whatever the conscious mind is focused on. It doesn't determine whether right or wrong, good or bad, anything else. It just absorbs it. And then the subconscious mind uses the body to carry out actions for the experiences we call life. So if you're feeding garbage in, you're going to experience garbage out here around you. And when I say garbage, I don't mean that derogatory. I'm just saying, if you're feeding negative thoughts and things like that, you're going to have negative experiences. People that live in fear, doubt, and worry experience fear, doubt, and worry. when we change this around, the mindset, we start absorbing different things on the subconscious. But where my specialty is the conditions, the patterns, the paradigms that exist at the subconscious level don't change just because our thinking changes. So people will change that. They'll do things like how I perceive The Secret to be, where I just talk positive and that things will be positive. It doesn't happen like that. We have to change that conditioning at a subconscious level, so then we can start really experiencing that pass through. Does that make sense?
No, it does, because you hinted a little bit about exposure, what you expose yourself to. So I'm really big on that, especially when it comes to my kids, right? What do you consume when you watch TV? What do you consume when you're on YouTube? And I'll give you an example. I've used this a couple of times now on the podcast. My son, Junior, he's 8 years old, and he watches normal kid stuff on Netflix or any type of network. And I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he says, I don't know. Whoever my boss is, I'll have to ask him what he wants me to do. And I said, Anthony, who told you that you needed a boss in order to be successful in life? Or in order, that's what you should be doing as an adult. And he couldn't tell me, he couldn't really articulate where he got that from, because he's been fed that either through school, right, or through what he looks at on TV. Yeah. And I told him, you don't need that to be successful. Because I've been, at the time, I had been having him read entrepreneur books, like for kids. And just this past weekend, awesome. We actually did, we sold water bottles over the weekend. What is it? 32 cases of water for $6. He sells each one for $1. So he makes like a $20-something profit. Nice. So it worked out for him, and he made a good profit over the weekend. And so I told him, I said, look, Anthony, you see how much did it take for you to save up money when you was waiting for people to give you money for like Christmas and holidays and stuff like that? Because he saved up about $43. He says, well, it took me like 6 months. I said, and how long did it take you to make $46 in profit? He says, with me, 1 day. I said, you see the difference between when you make yourself your own boss and you take action? You see what you could do in 1 day versus waiting for life to just happen to you and waiting for your boss to tell you to do something. That's the difference. Awesome.
What a great teaching story there. And Anthony, I told you I have a 25-year-old son, and he grew up in Detroit, and I had 50% custody when he was younger and stuff like that. But then once he graduated high school, he wanted to move at his mom's, and that's why I took a job out of state and stuff. And so anyway, but yeah, I all the time tell him, man, you got to get out of that area, because everything in that area feeds, breeds, and eats automotive. Everything is still in Michigan automotive related, right? Somehow. So you see this little box when you get outside of that area. And so one of the things, and this may come up for you too, one of the things I told him is he wanted to be a lawyer at one point, or he wanted to go into medical, or he wanted to do stuff like that. And every time he wanted to do something, I would find somebody to connect him with that he could talk to that did that, so he could really get insight into what that was like. But breaking that whole mold, that was beautiful. You shared that conditioning of like, I need a boss, and you don't even know where it comes from that kids receive stuff like that. But that's the conditioning I'm talking about. And that is so deeply ingrained. It took me 28 years, and I didn't even know that's what was holding me prisoner to a career I didn't even want, when I could have been building this thing way back then. And that's one of the things I love about what I do today, is I can help people break that. I love working with a younger person, because, somebody in their 20s, because they can have so many more years to launch and have an impact on this world than what I'll be able to starting in my 40s doing, stepping out into doing this.
No, you're
right. So that's awesome. At 8, you're able to show them that stuff.
I'm really big on generational wealth, or just passing on certain concepts or mindsets down to your kids, because of what you said, right? The subconscious conditioning that we had growing up, it wasn't our fault, right? But as adults, we are not to blame the conditioning that our parents gave us. We are adults now. We have to take responsibility for our actions. And one of those things that I consider taking responsibility is passing on the right way to do things to your children, so that they don't run across the same stuff you had to, or do things out of necessity. I want you to do things because that is what you want to do.
Yes. Yeah. And my son, like I say, he's 25, and we'll talk now, and he'll say, Dad, Remember when you used to tell me, that like so-and-so for a long time that I wasn't lazy. I just didn't like the stuff I was doing and stuff like that. You're right. Like, I love what I'm doing today. I had an instance with him, Anthony. I bought him a car down here in South Carolina and brought back to Michigan for him because he's in college and stuff, and I told him, but you got to sell the car you have now. And so he sold it thinking he was going to have to give me the money. But then once he got it, I go, okay, now put that in your savings stuff, and surprise him with it. But his vision, that the right person was going to come along, buy his car. They were going to give him close to what he's only asking $1,500. So they're going to give him close to what he's asking and everything else and stuff like that. This is a good example of what a lot of people do. That Friday, this is a couple years ago. So Friday, I'm driving his car up to him. And he calls me up. He goes, Dad, guess what? Somebody's coming to look at the car tomorrow. And I didn't even advertise it yet. And I go, oh, no kidding. And he goes, right there's a pause. And he goes, yeah, but he's a mechanic. So he's going to find everything wrong with it and only offer me a couple $100 for the car. That's what so many people do, Anthony. And so I walk him through that and I go, you know what, Joey, what facts do you have? You have a fact that you're selling a car, you're asking $1,500 and somebody's coming to look at it, and you have the fact that he's a mechanic. That's all you know. And you took those facts and ran your vision all the way into the ground. And so many people do that, Anthony, and then they live on scraps of what's available to them. And they blame somebody else, or they're upset, or this stuff doesn't work and things like that. And I understand that. But I was able to help him. And I go, okay, now what was your vision? I got him going into it again. He got excited. The guy came over the next day. It was a perfect car for his daughter who just got her license and everything else. The guy was excited about it. He gave him $200 less than he was asking for. And Joey was like just ecstatic. He was so excited about that when he called me about it. But that's what happens is people going about it alone. They don't even realize that they're taking some facts and running their vision of what they desire into the ground. They don't even know that. And then they live on scraps.
Having that scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's so many avenues that we could cross into in this conversation. Man, we have a lot of synchronicity between you and I and stuff, but there's so many different avenues, even the things about like, don't expect too much, don't, things like that. That was one of the things I used in the Mythbusters too, is like, you got to expect beyond what you believe possible. When I work with somebody on their vision, I work on, there's 3 types of goals. A-type goals are the goals we do every day, shampooing our hair, brushing our teeth, stuff like that. We do them repetitively all the time without even thinking. B-type of goals are contingent on something else happening, and then I'll do it. The kids going off to school or getting out of college, retiring, whatever it is. And then C-type goals are the ones I work on. And C-type of goal, to be a C-type goal, is you have to have no freaking idea on how the heck it's going to come to happen in your life. You have no idea how to bring it about, but you want it. Those are the goals that I get people to come up with and then focus on. And that's what we go after.
I love that, man.
Because that's where real life is happening.
No, you're right. No, you're completely right. And you're right. You're also right by saying we do have a lot of mindsets that I love how we're bouncing them back and forth off, because this is the foundation. Yeah. I like this part. This is the foundation of being able to do anything that you put your mind to. And I love the versatility that you have because it shows proof that this mindset coaching, training your subconsciousness, it's not just to be successful in business. It's not just, so you could be a better leader. It's so that you could be a better version of yourself in all aspects that apply to you. And there's also some flexibility to this as well. So it's not just for, like you said, there's no, like, I can't see myself being a business coach, it has to all be inclusive. Yeah.
Yep. I'm trying to think who says it. I can't think who says it. Maybe I'll think by the time I say it. I don't think it's Paul Swallows. He says, instead of asking what the world needs, ask what brings you to life. Like, ask what brings you alive. Because that's what the world needs, is more people to come alive. So like you said a minute ago, when somebody goes within and deals with that inside, they have to be more of that on the outside. You can't be more on the inside like that. Tap into those things and not bring it outwardly. So as we work on the inside, it automatically lifts up everything around us in our world.
Man, this has been awesome, Joey, man. This has really been awesome. Yeah. I really enjoy these conversations. Where can people find you at, contact you? Please tell the whole spiel.
Yeah, Anthony, the best thing for people to do is I have a special website set up called coachwithjoseph.com. and they can, https://coachwithjoseph.com, and they can schedule a 45-minute block of time with me, and we'll bring laser focus and go moving past what the hangups are right now, opening up that spark of a vision, of a dynamic vision for their life, and they'll gain tools and processes, things they can do that they'll walk away from the call with that they can implement into their life.
Okay, awesome. I have a few people that I will be forwarding you to, actually, because I have some people in my life that I know they have such creative minds, man, such creative ideas on what they can do, and if they just push back past themselves, the world will be their oyster. The world is waiting actually for their service. They don't know what they're missing.
Beautiful. You got a good heart, awesome, man. You got a really good heart, Anthony.
Oh, thank you. And I love your passion. This is something, it's always refreshing to hear somebody this passionate about what they do and to have that freedom, right? You don't feel like you got this ball and chain on your ankle and you have all these weights on your back. There's a freedom and flexibility that you have that I really would always want my loved ones and my family members to have, and myself obviously as well, to live our lives to the fullest, right? It's not just a saying, and it's actually possible if you do what you have to do. You just got to get over that mental barrier, that mental hump.
Absolutely. And it's almost, I don't want to say it's absolutely impossible, but it's almost impossible to do alone. I work with a lot of guys in recovery and stuff like that for alcohol and stuff. And I always tell them, get a sponsor right away. Because if you don't get a sponsor, that means you're sponsoring yourself. And you're the guy that got you here in the first place. We're each responsible for the life we're living right now. So to get out of that, we need to sidestep that and take some uncommon actions if we want uncommon changes, circumstances to show up in our life. So yeah, this is incredible conversation.
I like that. Uncommon answers for uncommon situations.
Yeah, we have to take uncommon actions if we want to experience life different than what we've experienced and the common life we've experienced. Absolutely. And it's uncomfortable to do that, but we have to be willing to put up with a little bit of uncomfortableness to bring about changes and a difference in our life. And having somebody there who's been through it to help you through it makes all the difference in the world.
Sweet, man. I really appreciate this. You're lucky. This is you're right about 5-5, right? 5 being your favorite number.
Yes,
and
sir.
This being episode 5-5. So this was meant to happen, man. Joey, I really appreciate you. This has been a great hour of discussion. We gotta make sure. I definitely will be staying in contact with you and be forwarding some people to you.
Yeah, and same theory, Anthony. I'd love to talk more with you on or off. And this conversation is very, very exciting. Thank you very much. I'm honored to get to be here with you, man.
Thank you as well.